Caesar, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Babby. Yes, continuing with our monkey theme as I venture forth and watch all of the monkey movies in the Planet of the Apes series. Um, we will be talking about that a little later, but I'm not going to jump into the monkey stuff right away. Because there's a little bit of stuff to talk about, I guess, outside of that. We did get great podcast timing because today there was a new Nintendo Lego set announced. I don't know if you saw this.
It,
Yes, it's very, very cool. It's the first Zelda set. I don't know how many they're gonna be doing of this. They did a lot of the Animal Crossing ones, but this one is bigger than all of those. And is in like their, I don't know if they have, if there's like an official word for it, but it's like the Black series, where it's like you can tell it's made for adults because the boxes are like
yeah,
black.
I think there's like architecture ones.
Yeah,
I forgot what they call the adult ones.
I don't know.
There is a word for it.
See, I'm a Lego nerd, but I don't know the whatever the labels. But yeah, they have like flowers and uh like architecture.
I got a bonsai tree.
Yeah. Well, speaking of tree, that's what this set is. It's actually the Deku tree. And what's cool about it is that, of course, the Deku tree has been in pretty much every single Zelda game, if not all of them. So which one are you gonna adapt? Are you just gonna do the newest one, or are you gonna do something from the older games? And I think they did the best they could. They picked the two most popular games. They did an Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild. This is a 2-in-1. I'm assuming that this is like the same pieces are used for both, or at least most of the pieces are used for both. I see some of these pieces are very specific to whatever game it's in. Like there's little Kokiri guys for the Breath of the Wild ones, and then there's like a Skulltula for the Ocarina of Time one. I'm pumped. It looks really good. I'm a big fan. It's 2,500 pieces, which is quite a bit. It's yeah, they have some pictures here. It looks like it'll fit perfectly on like a bookshelf or something. But yeah, around $300. I don't know why I said around. It's going to cost you $300, and it'll be available on September 1st. You can pre-order it right now. But can I be that guy for 1 second?
You always are that guy.
I know, but I want explicit consent for being that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, because there are 4 minifigures included. You have young Link from Ocarina of Time, who would have been in the Great Deku Tree. That's the first dungeon in that game. And then you have old Link from Ocarina of Time, and then Zelda Breath of the Wild, Link Breath of the Wild. But the picture that they use of those 4 minifigures has adult Link holding the Hylian shield. But the Hylian shield design that they use is the one from Breath of the Wild, not the one from Ocarina of Time, because there's a very distinct design in the Ocarina of Time. It has a 4th triangle on the bottom pointed upside down for some reason, which leads to annoying Nintendo people being like, there's a 4th piece of the Triforce. My one piece of evidence is the shield in Ocarina of Time, and that's it. And that's a 20-minute video, and it's a great video. You should watch it. I don't know. Maybe not. Everything else looks good, and I realized it's so that you could use it on the Breath of the Wild Link, and it would not look too out of place. And most people aren't going to be a stickler for that. But I thought that I'd just be that guy for 1 second, and that's fine. I'll probably
It's
get
fair
this.
for a $300 Lego set.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But I if I wasn't going to be that guy, someone else was. I know that like all of these like Lego heads. If you get into like the Lego Star Wars UCS sets, the Ultimate Collectors series, those guys, they're rough. It is like they'll release like a perfect scale replica of a ship from Star Wars, and then they'll put like a little minifigure that you can put on a plaque. And I've seen a bunch of reviews that are like 3 stars. It's like everything is perfect except the minifigure has one detail wrong with it, and I'm deducting 2 stars from this review because it's a bunch of money, and therefore they should remake all of the minifigures to be perfect. Which, granted, they might, they probably should do that, but the Lego people are very intense with this. So I'm sure I'm not even the first person to bring this up.
Probably
Um,
not.
but I think it's cool. I hope there's more Zelda sets. Hopefully we get the, I don't even know what else you would do. Maybe Hyrule Castle. That would be a big one. And also, which one are you gonna do? Probably the Breath of the Wild one. But I do want to sing Nintendo's praises a little bit. You know, I hate doing that. I I don't.
It always means they're gonna do something bad literally tomorrow.
That's true. Um, Probably, I will say Nintendo is like one of the weirdest companies. Just in general, they don't tend to do what they should, on a business sense. Um, they make very bad decisions that are very anti their fans, but also sometimes they do something like this where it's like, let's give them exactly what they want. And we'll do that every 5 years, we'll do something cool. Um, because I was like, they didn't pull a Disney. Because if Disney licensed, their stuff to Lego, it would be like, well, you have to make the newest thing. You have to push the product that we are like pushing out right now. That's like the Disney model, where it's like we're teaming up with Rocket League to bring X-Men cars to Rocket League, except it's specifically the X-Men 97 branding because that's the show that's coming out. It's like we couldn't just do an X-Men cross promotion. Or like when they do Star Wars, it's like it's Phantom Menace themed because that's the movie that's in theaters right now. It's like everything is so corporate and yucky. Whereas I feel like this is kind of indicative on a Nintendo's model of like they do like they make new games, but also they respect the classics, and I that's one thing I respect about Nintendo. Yes, it's Breath of the Wild, and that's the newest one, but also Breath of the Wild is probably the most popular Zelda game, at least in modern history. So I think it's fair. And it's not Tears of the Kingdom, which that would have been a coward move, making it the Tears of the Kingdom Deku Tree, because he's like sick or something. I don't remember. Um, but that's all. That's all I'm going to say. I actually recorded a podcast episode by myself that was like an hour long that was going off at Disney for these types of tactics, and I'm not going to release it. So yeah, that's why it was fresh in my mind why I wanted to bring it up. But sometimes I do that where I'm like I need to vent and I'll just record it. And so then I do that. And I have like 4 episodes that are going to be in the Disney vault, never to be seen.
That's what
So
Kendrick did.
that's true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5.
Will it
Right?
ever come out? Who knows?
Probably not. Well, since Drake shot himself in the foot, I don't think I don't think he needs to. Unless he wants to drop a whole disc LP, which would be interesting.
That'd be too much. That'd be
That
too much.
that's never been done before.
Unless it comes out like the week that Drake drops, he has it ready to go.
Oh, that would be
That would be next
interesting.
level.
Because Drake's probably gonna drop soon.
Yeah, because he needs more gambling money.
Yeah, and honestly, never mind. That came out last year, and doesn't he drop yearly?
He had like 2 albums since then.
Oh, really?
You're behind.
Oh yeah, For All the Dogs came out
For all the
last year.
dogs and the 21 Savage thing.
Wow. I just thought that honestly, Nevermind was the last one. I forgot about the For All the Dogs. Man, that was an hour
Oof.
and a half.
Yeah, it was horrible.
That's a long
Anyways,
record. Yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it for news, I think. Um, I do want to shout out one of my favorite indie studios. Uh, Free Lives have announced two new games. Free Lives, of course, a great studio under the Devolver handle. Probably my favorite publisher um, in the game. Free Lives, of course, made Broforce and Gorn, which is my favorite VR game. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I love Gorn, and so I'm very interested in what they're doing next. And they have a first-person shooter. Let me pull up the title. It's called Angerfoot. It's I guess it's about kicking down doors and shooting things. Um, it looks interesting based on the trailer that was released. And they also have a side scrolling beat 'em up called Stick It to the Stickman that is going to be coming out. Both of these are going to be coming out this year. So I guess they have two studios. But a fun fact that I learned today, which is kind of interesting, because they made Broforce, like this like parody super American game. They're based in South Africa. I'm like, that seems kind of weird. You would think that the people who made Broforce would be American, but I guess not. So, just a little fun fact and a plug for two games to wishlist on Steam if you're into that kind of thing. So, that's your release radar for this week. Speaking of, this is my open petition to uh, pressure Spotify to have me be the voice of the DJ. I need to replace that guy. It's still in beta testing, and they've
you
received my
use that?
application. Well, no,
Okay,
but
I
there's
was
a
gonna say.
guy. There's a guy who does the voice for it, and I think that I would be a better fit. So I want to pressure my audience to send emails to Spotify corporate to get me to replace the DJ
Oh,
voice.
please.
Please, please get Caesar from episode 247 or whatever this is of the Boy Time podcast to be in the new DJ mode.
Make sure to send them as a voice memo MP3.
Yes, that's the best way to do it, I think. That's the best way to make sure they hear it because they're in the audio
Hmm.
game. They don't read. It's all
Yeah,
listen.
it's actually banned in the Spotify office.
Yeah, that's all of their emails. All of their internal emails are all voice memos. Just like, hey, Clark, did you see the numbers on that new Yeet song? We should push that in the top of the Lorem playlist.
Every time you email someone, you have to make a playlist that like spells out what you're trying to say, and it takes forever.
Yeah, it is rough. It is rough. But that's how they do it there, and that's why they're a Fortune 500 company, because they've got it going on. Are they a Fortune 500 company?
I don't know.
Probably. They,
They're pretty big.
they exploit artists. That's the best way to be on that list.
Join the camp.
Yeah. Yeah. Disney's on there. They exploit their artists.
Every single company is.
Well, not PayPal. They don't have any artists. That's just money.
That is just money.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of money, let's talk about the highest grossing movie of the year, Fall Guy, because I watched it.
Fall Guys.
Fall Guys. That's what they should have called it, because there's multiple Fall Guys. But I guess it's technically a remake, which I did not know until the end. I think it was a show, kind of like a 21 Jump Street situation, where it was an old TV show, and then they were like, let's make it a movie. So then they made it a movie years later. Um, and so it's a pretty good movie. It has Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in it, and it's a whole lot of fun, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's a whole lot of fun. Nothing too crazy. It's not going to change anyone's mind. It's not going to be a political thought piece. It's a fun rom-com action movie starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt from the director of Bullet Train. So I would recommend it. I feel like I'm very late on this. I think it came out in the beginning of this month, but I went and saw it on Memorial Day in a packed house. I was surprised it was still a packed house, but it was. And I had a good time with it. Plus, it has Stephanie Shu from, I think, Everything Everywhere. Yes, that's her name. She plays Joy in that movie. So it's nice to see her getting roles in huge Hollywood pictures like The Fall Guy. Watch it with your family, watch it with your kids or your partner or loved one. Uh, it'll be a crowd pleaser for sure. And it sure pleased this crowd. I gave it 3.5 stars, I think. And people were rating it lower. And I'm just like, man, y'all take everything too seriously. Sometimes you just need to have some fun in a movie theater. Watch Ryan Gosling be super charismatic and punch some dudes. And that's what this movie was. And it was a lot of fun. So this episode is sponsored by The Fall Guy. I should have brought that up before starting.
Link in bio.
Link in the bio for tickets to a theater near you. Fall Guys, a Universal Pictures movie. We love Universal here. We love that they send us money to promote their movies. And then
I love everything they do, clearly.
yes, I love Universal. Yeah, they're very good. Usually we don't even disclose that we're doing ads by them, but
True.
yeah, they've been paying us this whole time to write positive reviews of their films, and we are going to continue doing that. So anytime we review a Universal movie and it's positive, you can always assume that we're getting paid for it, and we don't even have to disclose it because
I don't
it's
even
like
gotta watch the movie and I get paid for it.
exactly. It's like this is a blanket statement about every movie in the past and future we have ever talked about that has been Universal, because they found us when we were like 10 episodes deep and they started sending us cash since then.
Immediately.
And frankly, it was a pittance at first, but now we are making bank. Quite bank, actually. So, just so you guys know, we want to be crystal clear on that, except we will never bring it up again.
Nope.
So that's the situation here at the Boy Time Podcast. But let's talk about some movies that I hated because they were by 20th Century Fox. Yeah, if you want me to like your movies, 20th Century Fox, you should have sent me more money. Because you sent money and it was way less than what Universal was paying. So now I'm forced to give a negative review of one of the best film trilogies I have ever seen, the Rise / Dawn / War of the Planet of the Apes. The new trilogy, because we're done with the old and
It's not the newest trilogy, though, is it?
It's the newest one because there's only one movie out right now.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's going to be a trilogy. I just know that there's a movie in theaters. I'm going to see it this week.
It's
And
gotta be
oh boy, I'm so excited. I can't wait. It was kind of trippy going into a movie theater to see The Fall Guy, which is one of the best movies I've seen this year, by the way. And seeing like ads for the monkey movie, and I'm like, I can't escape this. Everywhere I go, there's talking monkeys.
Ape Life.
It's yeah. Maybe I should just embrace it, go full chimpanzee. But all bits aside, this review is going to cover spoilers for this trilogy. I'll try not to spoil too much because they are very good, but it's gonna be hard to talk about like the third installment of the trilogy without spoiling things that happen in the first two. So be warned if you have not seen the Matt Reeves Planet of the Apes trilogy. I know he was not involved in the first one, but he did the second two. If you have not seen those, you should see them. They're very, very good. Probably, I don't know why I'm saying probably. They're easily the best installments in the franchise. I have a letterboxed list going right now of all of the Planet of the Apes movies in order. And I think the difference between the new movies and the old movies is like 1.5 stars between the best old movie and the worst new movie. So I feel like that should accurately describe how I feel about this franchise, in that all of the old ones are trash. Do not waste any of your time watching them. However, I will be bringing up all of the references I caught, because what was the point of watching six Planet of the Apes movies if not to catch all of the subtle references and Easter eggs littered throughout this new trilogy that I noticed. And I'm sure I didn't notice all of them, but yeah, that's that. Um, Everything out of the way. But we'll start with Rise from the Planet of the Apes, and we'll address the monkey in the room. That there's a lot of humans in this movie, and that's kind of the major like criticism I hear of this movie, is that the monkey stuff is super interesting, while the human stuff kind of drags it down. And I would agree a little bit, but I don't think it's as bad as people say. And maybe it's because I love boring, slow, drawn out, explanatory science scenes. I'm a big fan of the movie Arrival, and that movie is almost all that. And so, when James Franco, the super cool sexual predator, is like, yo, I'm a cool science guy treating Alzheimer's, I'm a sucker for that when he's doing his logs and all that stuff. But I just want to praise this movie for actually making this premise make sense. Because as we talked about last week, it makes absolutely no sense why apes can talk. They don't know the gestation period. I looked it up because last week I was struggling with that word. It's gestation. They didn't understand how long apes are pregnant, and therefore why evolution would not take that fast. Things with a really short gestation period that have large litters can evolve way faster than something like us humans, who, aren't in their like sexual maturity until late teens, and then it takes a long time for them to be pregnant. Whereas mice, like they can pop those suckers out as soon as they're like 1 year old. And so it doesn't make sense for all apes to be able to gain cognitive function in 20 years. It's just not feasible. So, but this movie makes it all make sense, because James Franco is a super cool science guy, and he has this personal thing at this pharma company who's like, he's trying to cure Alzheimer's. And the way he's doing it is that he is developing a drug that basically can restore brain tissue, can allow the brain to repair, yeah, it's tissue. But what they find is that when they're testing it on chimpanzees, because pharma companies test stuff on chimpanzees, also Elon Musk uh, tests Neuralink on chimpanzees. I wonder what Caesar would think about that. Um, just gotta throw that out there. Um, when they give this drug to chimpanzees, it actually improves their mental function. And as the movie goes on, James Franco notices because he's testing it on his dad, and his dad has Alzheimer's. That's why it's so personal to him, like why he's hell bent on developing this thing to cure Alzheimer's. And so he gives it to his dad. He starts testing it on his dad without Science Man's approval. And his dad starts improving, but then over time, he starts deteriorating again because a big part of this drug is they're like re engineering a virus to be able to uh, go in and, uh, I guess restore brain tissue or whatever. And ape immune systems are way better, so that virus is fine, I guess. I guess I don't really get that. And I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want this movie to be debunking the science of the Planet of the Apes. It was fun to do in the old ones because absolutely nothing made sense, but yeah, whatever. The apes are fine with this virus, but then towards the end of the movie, it's a virus that's going to start wiping out people. So isn't that nice? It all makes sense. It's this drug that improves apes' mental abilities while killing off humans. So, therefore, the end goal, which I guess is a goal that happens 2,000 years from now, when Charlton Heston crashes his plane into the lake and finds a bunch of apes that can all talk English and are hunting humans, it's all feasible now because the humans are going to start dying off and the apes are only going to improve from here. So, it's all, the seeds have been planted and it's great. And I want to give special commendation to Andy Serkis, who plays Caesar in all three of these movies. But Andy Serkis is like the king of mocap, and also just a great actor in his own right, um, playing Alfred and the Batman, which is also directed by Matt Reeves. It's probably where they met. But he is so good at playing the ape Caesar. He gets like the body language down completely, and over time we see his like stature change as he develops confidence, and we also see him as a leader improve over the course of the three movies, which of course you want. So it's a very, very good performance. And the first one is a very, very good movie. You should watch it. I don't think I spoiled anything too crazy. I'm just setting up what happens in the next ones. Because number two is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I think is my favorite one. Of the three, I think that this one is the best one. Although I think I rated them all equally at 4 stars. Um, because this movie is essentially a remake of the fifth Planet of the Apes movie, the Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which you would think the War for the Planet of the Apes would be a remake of that movie, but no, that is actually a remake of Schindler's List or something. I don't know. We'll get to it when we get there. Um, oh, I didn't go over the Easter eggs. Oh, there's so many Easter eggs in the first one. Let me go through them. And they're not sneaky at all because basically in the background of the entire movie we're like cutting to news footage of like, hey, we are going to be sending a shuttle up to space, and then like halfway through the movie we see a rocket ship get shot up and it doesn't really connect to anything in the plot. It's just random footage of a rocket being sent to space. And then like right towards the end of the movie we see a paper boy on his bicycle and he's throwing the newspaper, and then we get a cut to the newspaper headline. And maybe it would make sense in the story to be like, hey, there's a plague going around. You should stay inside or whatever. But no, the headline is Shuttle Lost in Space, which is a clear foreshadowing moment for those sneaky, eagle eyed viewers in the know who have seen the original movie to be like, I remember that. I remember that. I remember when Charlton Heston flies his plane into the lake and then meets a bunch of apes who speak English, who are dumb. I remember that. So It's actually very sneaky. Nobody else probably noticed that all of that was setting up the original film very sneakily and subtly, I would say. Um, Other than that, I don't think there's any other Easter eggs, other than, of course, Caesar being named Caesar, because there's a character in, geez, I'm getting them all mixed up in my head. Conquest for the Planet of the Apes and Battle for the Planet of the Apes named Caesar. Which the last, I guess, yeah, the fourth and fifth Planet of the Apes movies, this trilogy is essentially a remake of those, but way better. Um, it treats the subject matter with the subtlety that I was yearning for when I did the review last week. Um, but now we'll move on to the second one. The second one is great. This one was the first one directed by Matt Reeves, who I've not seen any of his movies other than The Batman, but I really like The Batman. It's a very good neo noir thriller outside of being a Batman movie. Um, he's very, very good at that. So I'm very excited for what he's going to be doing with The Batman going forward. But this one, I think, was probably his big hit, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And by this point, most of the humans are gone. The apes have pretty much set up a pretty big and permanent settlement in the Redwoods, because all of these movies take place in San Francisco. Well, actually, third one doesn't for most of it, but they all start in San Francisco. And so they basically have this big jungle house. Um, and it's pretty interesting because where it starts, the apes are pretty much under the assumption that all of the humans have been wiped out. They hadn't seen any of them in a very long time. I think it might be 20 years or so since the events of the first one and the second one. And so they're like, oh, whatever. We basically own the planet because all the humans are wiped out. And meanwhile, there's humans that have been, I guess, trapped, not trapped, but they're just kind of like in San Francisco, but there's not many of them. Basically, all of the humans left on Earth have some sort of genetic immunity to that virus. So basically, human numbers are very, very small. And there's like no infrastructure. So, like, they don't know if they're the only people there. Um, but another Batman connection, because the leader of the humans is played by Gary Oldman, who is probably one of the greatest actors of all time, but I think most people know him as Commissioner Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy. So I don't know. That's probably just a coincidence, but I think he was making the Dark Knight Returns, or he was in that. I have not seen that movie in a very long time, so I don't remember how much Gordon is in it, but it would have been right around this time. Um, but yeah, he plays the human guy, but there's conflict. It's This movie is very small scale, but it turns into a bigger scale thing because basically the humans have sent a scouting party into the forest because they want access to the hydroelectric dam that is set up in the forest to power their city and also to power their radio transmitter to figure out if there are any other humans in the world, or at least in their immediate vicinity. And so, as you can imagine, when they meet the apes are very angry, and the humans are a little trigger happy because the virus was named the simian flu. Um, I I don't I don't know if they ever explain how they knew that they tested the virus on apes before it spread to humans. Um, but it's not really the apes' fault. It was James Franco's fault, or not James Franco's fault, but the guy who ran the pharmaceutical company. So I don't know. But anyways, it's basically just this really interesting movie where there's the humans of basically the all of the majority of the humans are basically gearing up because they don't have any other options. They're going to run out of their fuel in the backup generator in 2 weeks, And so they need to take that dam whether or not the apes will let them. And so they're breaking into the like military reserve that was in the base or whatever. Um, but meanwhile, they send like this guy and he's like, "You have 3 days to do it, otherwise we're just gonna go in with guns and kill all the apes." And so there's the ticking clock element. But meanwhile, and I don't want to just do a play-by-play of this movie, but what makes this movie interesting is that there is trauma on both sides, because obviously a lot of the humans blame the apes for the death of their family members and friends. Basically, everybody in the human camp has lost everybody. They're like sole survivors, which doesn't really make sense. If it's a genetic immunity, you would think that like your immediate family, like your kids or like your parents would also be genetically immune, but don't think about that for too long. Everybody is the sole survivor and they all blame the apes. So like they're at like a level of like not trusting the apes, and the apes are also at a level of not trusting the humans because humans tested pharmaceutical drugs on them and put them in zoos and circuses and whatever. Like all of the apes in this settlement, because apes are not found natively to San Francisco, if you can believe it, are there because of like genetic testing or like some rich asshole who owns a chimpanzee, whatever. Um, they all don't like humans. But Caesar is kind of the one who's willing to hear humans out, be diplomatic with them, having been raised by one. Um, Caesar, what that's what makes Caesar a really interesting protagonist, because in that first movie, he sees the good side of humans and the bad side of humans, whereas most apes just see the bad side, which, leads to a lot of tension. It actually leads to a coup in this movie led by Koba, which everybody was tweeting about like a month ago. And I'm like, why is everybody tweeting about this monkey named Koba? Turns out, I guess they were rewatching those movies, what I should have done a while ago and lead up to the new one. Um, and so I missed out on that trend, but that's fine. But Koba is also a very interesting antagonist. Yes, he's the bad guy, and he eventually like leads to the apes to war with humans and tries to kill Caesar, when of course the first ape rule, as we all know, is ape do not kill ape, or ape no kill ape. That is rule numero uno. um, which they really, I don't even think they like really hammer that in, but as someone who has seen all of the Planet of the Apes movies, that is something that is consistent with the lore from Conquest and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Are That's the main rule there too. Um, so it's very consistent. This is a very cohesive franchise. All of these movies are canon, except for I think every single sequel, um, except for the first movie and then these new ones. Um, which I think is how it should be. Honestly, I hate that original. I think it has no merit as a science fiction movie, and everybody who claims it does is either nostalgic or dumb, and I mean that unironically. I, um, so that's my thoughts on that. But back to Koba as a very interesting antagonist, because he was set up in the first one as being someone or an ape who has been tested for pretty much everything. He has like scars all over his body because humans have been cutting him up, and mistreating him for years and years and years. Um, and basically, the intelligence that was granted to him by this drug has only intensified that hate towards humans and has basically allowed him to plot and conceive of strategies against humans, which is all very understandable. Um, if someone had tortured you for years and years, It would probably make sense to be like, I think that all humans are hateful and want to torture animals like me. Um, so it's all very understandable. There's a very like good scene where as Caesar is like trying to let the apes let the humans come in and fix the dam, just like a small party of five come in and fix the dam. He's basically like, hey, we're going to let these guys do their human work for a couple days and then they're going to be gone. And we're just going to coexist bumper sticker. Everybody's going to be groovy. We're going to chill. And then Koba's like pointing to all of his scars and saying human work over and over and over again. It's very striking. And it kind of just like lays out the thesis for like why he is so angry at humans. And it's for every event going forward, it kind of puts Koba in a light of like, okay, I get it. I understand why he's like this and why he's scared of humans encroaching on his land, even though he kind of goes a little bit too far with it, shoots Caesar and basically frames humans for destroying the settlement and then leading a war party down to destroy all of the humans and enslave the women and children. It seems it's rough to watch. Not gonna lie, but it's all coming from a place of like, okay, I get it, and it's based a lot on like, from what I can gather, it seems to be based a lot on like the indigenous peoples pretty much everywhere that they have existed, and like the colonizers coming in, and colonizers, of course, tortured and enslaved people. And unfortunately, most of them did not get their independence back thanks to a plague that wiped out the colonizers. Usually it was the other way around, unfortunately. Um, but like the apes, they kind of dress in like war paint that is very kind of reminiscent of like stereotypically Native American war paint, or even like indigenous Australian. They kind of have like the white paint that they put on their face. It was kind of similar to that. So I think that's kind of the vibe they're going for. And so if you look at it through that angle, it's like, okay, I understand that you might that Koba would think, okay, well, we let these humans come in and do their work, and then they're gonna betray us and you know wipe us out because that's what they do. So there's a lot of good questions, and you can tell that there's a lot of trauma on both sides, but you really sympathize with the apes. They are definitely the group that you are, supposed to root for. But I will say that, like, it is kind of heartbreaking that, like, every single human has lost their entire family. Gary Oldman is essentially the leader of the humans, and he is the one that is really pushing to wipe out all of the apes, at least like from the human side. He is like the Koba to, uh, the ape side, the one that is intensifying the tensions. And, you don't really like him either. But man, there's a scene right before the apes raid where basically the dam is restored and basically the humans are getting ready to leave, and that's when Koba does his coup and sends the war party out. So the city has power. The survivors there are rejoicing for like the first time. I don't know, maybe since the plague. They're like celebrating and having fun, playing music that they could play for the first time. You know, since the plague, since all their infrastructure went down, and Gary Oldman has his iPad set up to a charger, and as soon as that power comes back, he's able to open that iPad and look at the pictures he had saved of his kids. And you can tell because he like starts breaking down, and it's like this is the first time this man has seen the faces of his children in years. And that's like gut wrenching. That is, and it's a great, great scene because it's like, oh man, like everybody has lost so much. Um, and then of course this like great celebration is of course cut short when Koba comes and raids everybody, and it's this very intense scene. There's a lot of death and brutality on really both sides, but Koba really leads the war party down a brutal path. Um, and so yeah, not gonna go too much into the end because it doesn't really matter. But man, that movie was so good. Maybe I should bump it up because now that I'm like laying out everything I liked about it, there's way more that I like about that movie than Rise. Um, that is like genuinely a it a really really great movie tackling some really big issues and ideas. And doing it in like a big studio Hollywood movie is impressive, and I think that that should definitely be celebrated. So, thank you, Matt Reeves. Now let's talk about your Holocaust movie, War for the Planet of the Apes. Um, Caesar survived the coup. Don't you believe it? And so, basically, the end of Dawn. This isn't going too spoilery, but when they have power back in their city, they are able to make contact with a military base up north and basically call for reinforcements as the raid is happening. Basically, you know, now that that has all passed, Caesar is back in control, and we basically cut in, and there has been like this colonel that has been basically trying to wipe out the apes. There's an ongoing war between the apes and the humans. It's it's kind of an even fight now because the apes all have guns that they stole from, well, not stole, but they just got from the San Francisco spot. So, it's kind of even warfare. There's like trenches, you can tell. I think it's been like 2 years since the original, so it's been a hot minute that this has been going on. Um, and basically, and this is spoilers for Dawn and Rise, but this movie starts with Caesar's wife and uh, son, his oldest son, getting murdered by the colonel. But his son was basically on this trip. He came back and is like, "Hey, I found this place where we can escape and like make it out unscathed and find a place that's isolated where humans won't attack us anymore. It's a paradise. We're gonna have to cross a desert, but we can do it." Um, and so he was there to like basically bring this good news to the I don't know, tribe, I guess. I don't know what to call it. The ape house. The ape house is a good name for it, I think. Um, but unfortunately, he gets murdered, and so does his mom. It's only his Caesar's youngest son who survives, whose name is Cornelius, which is a sly wink to or a nod that, in fact, in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, that's Caesar's son in that movie, who coincidentally also dies. Well, actually, Cornelius doesn't die in this movie, but one of Caesar's sons dies, and I don't know if that was a reference to that movie. I don't understand why they would do that. Um, but that's just like a nice little, you know, if you know, you know. That's really the only Easter egg in this movie is that Caesar's son is named Cornelius, which is also the ape who helps Charleston Heston. So it might be a reference to that, but it's more directly a reference to Caesar's son being named Cornelius. So there you go. It's pretty much the only Easter egg in War for the Planet of the Apes. Um, so basically, Caesar is like, okay, we're gonna go to the desert. I want everybody else to go to the desert. I'm going to go hunt down the Colonel because I'm Ellie in The Last of Us 2, and I want revenge on my on for my wife and child. which is understandable. But also, I feel like this is a little bit of mischaracterization because up until this point, Caesar has put the livelihood and safety of his apes as first priority. Um, and so it does kind of feel a little weird that Caesar is taking this drastic change of like, okay, you guys all go. I'm going to abandon you and instead go way up north to kill Woody Harrelson as the colonel. See y'all later. It's just like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, but it is understandable. His wife and son were murdered. It's your typical revenge movie formula, except for some reason they really wanted to go hard in the Holocaust imagery because when Caesar, oh wait, there's another Easter egg I forgot about. Oh, I got to talk about this Easter egg because it made me roll my eyes when I saw it. Um, basically, uh, Caesar and a couple of apes, because a couple of apes follow him and are like, we're not going to let you go off by yourself, Caesar. We're going to make sure you get home safe, so that he can have other supporting people to talk to. Otherwise, it would be a very long, quiet movie of him riding his horse up to the north. Um, basically, on the way, they happen across an old fishing village. Um, and there is a young girl there, and they murder her dad because her dad pulled a gun on them. But she doesn't seem to mind because she joins the crew. But the big thing with her is that she can't talk. And it seems to be that the virus that wiped out all the humans has mutated and is slowly starting to transform people back to a primitive state. Therefore, once again, setting up the original movie and that apes or that humans couldn't talk in that. So it's all starting to make sense now. It really didn't make sense in the original movies. But she can't talk and she joins the group, and Caesar kind of reluctantly lets her join. Also, I think kind of a mischaracterization because Caesar knows like the good side of humans, whereas a lot of the apes around him don't. So if anyone would have been like, "Oh, we just murdered her dad because he tried to pull a gun on them," fair enough. But like, he would be the first one to be like, "Okay, that wasn't her fault, and if we leave her here, she's going to die." So like, it seems like that would be the Caesar move to be like, "Come on, kid, join our merry band." Um, but he's like, "No, I don't want to do that." Which I guess he is leading them to like a really bad place, uh, you know. So maybe that's part of it, but it takes like the orangutan Maurice, who's like my favorite character. He's so cool. He's like, no, we need to be nice and let the girl come. But the girl basically finds this little, I don't even know what it is. If it's like a part of a car or something, like the grill of a car sometimes has like lettering in it, maybe for like an old car. And it was like the Nova. Was there a car called a Nova?
Yes.
Okay, it was probably from that then. Um, she finds like this little sign. I don't even know what to call it. It's like metal lettering that's from a car. Um, and she like holds on to it. Um, and that, of course, is a very sneaky reference. Some people might not get it, but I tend to catch these things. That in the original movie, Charlton Heston has a girl that he takes with him. They don't really have much in common except for Charlton Heston is a dude and she is a woman, so therefore they should bang. Um, and I guess that's all that they needed to do in the 60s. It's like, oh, well, that just makes sense. But her name is Nova. So it is assumed that she is going to live 2,000 years, and and then she's going to get with Charlton Heston. So that's the logical step, I think, and that this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed chick is going to turn into a a 2,000-year-old brunette woman who doesn't look 2,000 years old. That's the logical next step, I think. So that's the other Easter egg. Sometimes they like to name characters things from the original movie. Some people probably didn't know, so I thought I'd let you know. But yeah, they get to the place, and it's a military base, and it's all snowy, which I think is a nice change of pace because apes in the snow. Granted, okay, I'll be that guy again for a second. Apes would not survive in the snow. Yes, they have coats, but they're from the jungle. They aren't meant to be in cold temperatures. Um, they don't have any sort of, insulation or anything that would prevent them or, protect them from the elements. So it doesn't really make sense that they're all fine in the cold for long periods of time without coats or anything, because they would be pretty similar to us in terms of like temperament. Because we can't survive in the cold for very long, so these guys wouldn't be able to either. But it's fine. It's fine. They have fur coats. Let's just ignore it. Um, they're in the snow, and when Caesar gets there, because Caesar wasn't there leading his people, it turns out that Woody Harrelson caught him as he was heading up north. Yeah, and then he brought them all to the base. I don't know how they wrangled. There's like 200 of them. They all wrangled them all to the base, separated the adults and the children, and then made the adults work in work camps. Didn't give them food or water. Like, this is very, very clear Holocaust concentration camp imagery. Um, they weren't like branded or anything, or were wearing like uniforms. They're just apes working in work camps. But you know what they're going for. This is a very clear like genocide movie. Um, which I gotta say, that was like my main complaint about the originals, is that most of the messages in that one is racism is bad. And that was it. It was really surface. And that's kind of why I say it's like it's for dumb people, because like a dumb person would look at that and be like, "Oh, that's really deep." But it's like it's not. It's like the bare minimum that you can do in a science fiction type story. So like I think doing this type of movie is a little bit better than just being racism bad, but it does lack all the subtlety that I praised in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's so like, do you get it? This is concentration camp imagery. Um, we're only feeding them. Caesar eventually gets them to be fed, and it's like ungrained, like unmilled grain and like water. And because he basically works out a deal, I guess, where his people get to be fed, but they string him up, and it's very clearly like Jesus imagery where they have him like crucified, and it's like, okay, I get it. Like he's a leader to his people, like Jesus is the leader to us all. Um, so
Amen.
yeah, it's like we get it. um, a lot of like on the nose type stuff. Um, and I think that's why I think I might. I don't know. I go back and forth on which one is worse, War or Rise. I actually think they're all great, but like I don't know. War is like so over the top of like, do you get it? The Holocaust was a bad thing and genocide in general is bad, which I think is a message that most people can get on board with.
Aw.
Huh? Uh, maybe all of these senators that are angry at college students should watch War for the Planet of the Apes and have their minds changed. Do you think
Maybe the most American thing to do.
You should sit down and watch War for the Planet of the Apes, and before you'll know it, you'll be a Twitter Democrat. Wouldn't that be something? That's the power of cinema.
That wouldn't be much better.
I think I would take a Twitter Democrat over a QAnon crazy lady.
Nah, they're just annoying. The QAnon people are funny, at least.
Well, that's true. That's true. I don't think they should
The
be in seats
Democrat
of
serves no
power.
purpose. The mega person provides entertainment.
I suppose so. I suppose so. I don't know if entertainment should be in seats of power,
No,
though.
it should not. But
Yeah, that's.
we're trying.
I understand. um, yeah, I guess that's all I need to say about war. I don't need to do any deep dive on all
War
the
never
details.
changes.
War never changes. It actually ends kind of epically because the ape escape, apes escape. It's like the game. It's like Ape Escape. I actually have never played that game, so I don't know if it's like that at all. I don't know if the Ape Escape and Ape Escape is escaping from a concentration camp. I kind of doubt it. But who knows? Maybe that's the lore of Ape Escape. And, you know, only some people will know. I doubt many people know that Ape Escape is a thing, but it's an old PlayStation game. Anyways, the apes escape, and it's kind of cool because they find out that Woody Harrelson has been basically wiping out his own people, who are showing signs of like this mutated virus, aka not being able to speak. And Woody Harrelson is essentially like Caesar from New Vegas, where he thinks he's really smart because he's read a history book. You know, you know what I'm talking about? That's the thing
Yeah.
with yeah, that's the thing. And you can tell like right off the bat, because like they capture Caesar and he's like Grant and Lee, someone and Napoleon. Oh, all these great generals. I'm surprised he didn't say Hitler and uh who Eisenhower or someone. Eisenhower was a general. Didn't he lead D-Day?
I don't know.
I should know this. I have a history
You're the producer.
degree. Whatever. I'm surprised he didn't do that just to really reinforce that Nazi imagery is on the mind. But they didn't do that, maybe because they knew that that one would be one too much. Um, and so, like, and then there's like spray painted like history, history, history on the wall, which that one is one too much. Don't do that. Don't. Why would he spray paint history on the wall? It's like we get it. This guy is like a weirdo obsessed with human legacy. Um, like maybe way too obsessed with human legacy to the point where like if someone is like showing signs of not being able to talk, he's like they're losing their essential human functions, the function to logically whatever. So I murdered them all. My son was had he couldn't talk, so I shot him myself. I was like, okay, we get it, guy. You're evil. But basically, everywhere else finds out that he's been doing this, and they're like, yo, chill. And so then they send a bunch of military people to wipe him out, which honestly, I'm kind of impressed there were that many people that were still alive that were, soldiers. But whatever. It leads to a fun climax where all of the Woody Harrelson Nazis are fighting against unnamed people in white uniforms. Uh, a real Deus Ex Machina, if you will. Except they don't really save the day. They just kind of uh, they get there as the apes have already escaped, so they just kind of make everything more complicated. Um, but it does like kind of get these guys their just desserts to see them get wiped out, and that's kind of fun. They get wiped out militarily because they all die, but they also get wiped out because all of the shooting leads to a giant avalanche that not only wipes out all of the rest of Woody Harrelson's people, but also wipes out all of the unnamed white uniformed soldier men. Um, so whoops, I guess. I don't I don't know. I don't know how that even happened, but I guess it did. But the apes, you know, because they could climb trees, they were able to get above the avalanche, which I don't know how all of the trees that the apes were climbing on, they all stayed upright, but other trees fell down. I guess they all just got really, really, really lucky and picked the right trees. So yeah, it's a great trilogy. I think you should watch them all. Even if you listen to all of this, even when I told you not to. I told you not to listen to this. If you have listened to all of this and you haven't seen those movies, then shame on you. Because I think that all of these movies are great. And they're all pretty accessible. They're on Hulu or Disney Plus and Hulu if you roll like that. I was watching them all on Disney Plus originally, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And I switched over to Hulu, and I'm like, this is the same thing. So I guess it's just whether or not you want to be cool or not. I don't know. I guess Hulu is cooler than Disney Plus, although they're probably gonna close Hulu, shut down
They're
that
all
app.
lame.
Yeah, shut down that app. Everybody go to Disney Plus. Which, can I say something? I know I've already been saying something, but Disney Plus, say what you will about it, it had a nice color scheme, a nice royal blue. And now that they've incorporated Hulu into it, they're like, let's add green to that blue. So it's just kind of an ugly, swampy blue. It's like, why would you do that? That's not an appealing color for a streaming service. I mean, Max even knew that. They're like, purple? Who wants to associate our streaming service with
It was
royalty?
so perfect.
I know it was
And they
perfect.
ruined it.
They're like, we need to make this bright fluorescent blue. It's like they knew, they knew. Hey, I'm not one to question
We
Warner
have to
Brothers.
make it blue, even though Prime Video's already blue. And Peacock's kind of blue.
Disney
And
Plus is blue.
Paramount Plus is blue.
Yeah, why are they all
And Disney
blue?
Plus is blue.
I didn't notice that. I didn't think about that for more than 2 seconds. Why are
It
they all
gives
blue?
digital,
Oh,
so that's why they do that.
digital. Digital. Whatever. Good on Netflix for staying red and black. Even though that's
They
not.
get flamed so hard if they change that.
Yeah, that's true. I actually like the Netflix UI quite a bit. They're like the one app that works consistently,
Yeah.
even though I hardly ever use it, but it's nice. But anyways, that's my review of the Planet of the Apes. Got a little sidetracked there, but that was my review of them. I will have a review of the new one next week. I am also going to be seeing Furiosa with our mutual friend Grant. We talk about quite a bit. He's in town, so I'm going to see the Mad Max movie with him. He has not seen Fury Road, so I don't know if that's going to matter. I doubt it, because it's just going to be car action for most of it. If I had to guess, Furiosa is going to have around 60 lines of dialogue, because that's how much Max had in Fury Road. Pretty much all of the movies. He barely talks. So, there you go. We'll now move on to Babby for his segment of the show.
There's no monkeys in this segment.
Frick. You're not
I
going
don't
to
think there's a
review
genre
the.
of monkey music. I
You're
don't
not
know if
going
that's a
to.
thing.
You should talk about that Mike album.
Yeah, Where the Monkey.
Yeah.
We already have a full video on that. Watch it.
Oh, that's true. We've really
Now
been
getting into
focused
it, but
on monkey content this year.
yeah, we have. It's the Year of the Monkey.
That's
I don't
true.
think it is.
Actually,
I think it's Year of the Dragon.
uh, Chinese. What is it called?
Chinese
Birth
calendar.
year?
Freaking new. Yeah, some.
Birth. Jeez. 2024. It is the dragon.
Okay, I was right.
Good job. Monkey will be 2028. So look forward to 2028
Okay.
when we dedicate an entire
be
year
here.
to monkey
We're
content.
doing all monkey all year.
I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I don't have too much this week.
Okay.
I think I have one single.
Oh, really?
We have the new Shrapnel single, which came out. I think it was out by the time the last podcast came out, but I did not have time to listen to it. but this is their first single from their new record, which comes out on the 7th, next Friday. I'm
Oh,
very excited. Um, Apparently, Controller 7 is doing all of the production on it. I have not heard Controller 7 on anything, so this should be interesting. I'm liking what I'm hearing from the single, but I think it fits them pretty well. It's kind of dystopian, backpacky underground type rap that I do enjoy quite a bit. Um, I think the song's pretty great. I will have a full review of the album when it comes out next Friday. But I don't have too much to say about this single right now. But pretty good. I enjoyed it. Um, okay, I think we had one album this week.
oh,
There was more, but like I did not listen to them, so I'm not gonna talk about Sexy Red.
oh. Too bad, bitches.
Although, yeah, Sexy Red did have Drake on a song, and he rapped over to BBL Drizzy beat.
Oh, really?
Yes, I don't know why he did that to himself.
That's interesting.
But that's not even the most embarrassing thing to happen
Oh,
this week. J. Cole had a feature on somebody's song, Cash Cobain, whoever that is.
okay. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, the worst feature I've maybe ever heard.
Really?
I don't know what he was doing.
The worst feature.
I'm not like hyping that up or anything. Like it is genuinely like, why did you release this? Um, yeah.
Wow.
So two of the supposed big three released two absolute garbage features this week.
Kendrick's never dropped a bad feature.
That's not true.
I know. Listen to Bad
Ain't
Blood
nobody listening
remix.
to Thunder Kendrick
Oh, he was
remix or
on
whatever song he
Thunder.
was on. I don't think it was Thunder.
Oh,
Whatever one.
I
I'm
think it
not
was
listening to that.
Radioactive.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, the radioactive one was bad. The Bad Blood one was bad. The freaking Maroon 5 one was really bad.
He's on a Maroon 5
Uh,
song too.
yeah,
Oh, is it Payphone?
it might be actually.
I don't know where you would fit
Remember.
Kendrick on a Payphone
He
remix.
doesn't fit on Bad Blood, but he's there.
Well, that's true. Wow.
Kendrick's not actually my favorite feature artist. I feel like there's
No.
better, but
Yeah.
better than that though. Those were two surprisingly bad things. Um, but let's talk about an unsurprisingly good thing.
Oh.
Uh, Vince Staples. Vince
Oh
Stapler.
yeah,
Vincent
yeah.
Stapler. New record. He released it after like less than a week of announcing it and released it a couple hours early. So it was out last time we did the podcast, but it came out during the podcast.
Right.
So talking about it now. But yeah, this is Dark Times. This is his last record with Def Jam on
Oh,
his contract,
okay.
which is cool. He also had a Netflix show come out this year. I need to watch that.
It's
It's on my
funny.
list. I imagine so. It's got like 6 episodes, I think, so I
Yeah.
can binge it in a day.
Probably.
But yeah, I don't think this is officially a trilogy, but I kind of lump this into like an unofficial trilogy with his self-titled Ramona Park, and then this one. They all have similar vibes. They're all very kind of like melancholic, like huge West Coast kind of records. Um, and I've loved all three of them. The self-titled one from 2021, I think, is still really underrated. It's only 20 minutes, but like the vibes of that record are incredible. The hooks and everything are so catchy, and the lyricism is also great. Um, that one's still underrated. Ramona Park Broke My Heart, also fantastic. I talked about this one. This is 2022. Okay.
What?
Um, this one bumped it up to 41 minutes, so it was a full record. I think the writing was the strong suit on this record. There was definitely songs that were better than some other ones, but again, very good. But I think Dark Times kind of meshes all of that together into the ultimate Vince Staples album this decade. Because we got 35 minutes on the track length. I got 13 songs on here, and it flows so well. Um, the production on it, first off, is phenomenal. It's perfectly bridges like that kind of lo-fi aesthetic where it is very kind of like chill and vibey, but at the same time, there's just so much character and depth and volume in a lot of these beats, and it's so nice on the ears. Um, and he makes everything look so easy. Like he's one of those guys that like raps like laying back on a couch just chilling. I don't know how people do that because like the flows he's taken on here, the way he's like kind of soaring over these beats incredibly smooth is ridiculous. The wordplay he's weaving in, the catchy hooks and everything, he just is making it look so easy. Um, he definitely gives off the same kind of vibes as Isaiah Rashad's last record, this kind of hazy, like laid back, chill record with like really nice introspective lyricism. It's one of my favorite kind of brands. Mike does that too in a lot more of an aggressive sense, with like really like lo-fi underground production. But this one is so refined and like the bass notes and everything on this record are fantastic. Um, Black and Blue, amazing. Beat on here is phenomenal. Um, it's just such a vibe. I love that he releases all of these like either during summer or right before it's about to get warm up too, because it's like the only weather you want to listen to Vince Staples and is like beaming 90-degree weather when you're jamming this stuff. Um, but yeah, a lot of these tracks are addicting. I've listened to this thing probably 5 times since this came out. Um, I would put it on the same level as the Makami record this year that I just talked about last week. That I definitely said was the best hip hop record this year. I think this matches it. It's a completely different vibe, and I think they kind of round out the genre really well so far this year. Um, but yeah, fantastic. Listen to this record. I'm gonna have a lot more to say about it, I'm sure, at the end of the year. Um, because it only came out on Thursday. I haven't even had a week with this thing, but it sounds phenomenal. He has a incredible ability to match the conscious, incredibly smart part, and the kind of commercial part, or not commercial, but just like accessible. It's very accessible,
Mm.
um, but at the same time, there are layers to a lot of these things. Um, yeah, it's a really 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 good record. It is interesting because there's one sample on this record. There's a couple samples in this record that have been kind of moved around, from different artists and stuff. I think Schoolboy sampled one of the things from Black and Blue on here, or one of the samples from Black and Blue. So they both used that because that was interesting because that felt kind of familiar this year. Um, and then both this record and a Billy Woods record from 2019. Have this conversation between Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. It's the same conversation, like same cut and everything on both records.
Oh,
Um, but they're like completely different contexts. It's really interesting. Um, it's a really, really fantastic passage. Like I love that part of the Billy Woods record, and I love it on here as well. It's I don't know. It's an incredible kind of passage that leads into the next track. But yeah, it is a vibe. It is smart. It is depressing. It is vibey. Um, all of it. It's fantastic. I think this thing's getting a lot of praise. When I've kind of been yelling like into the void for the past two Vince Staples records because I do think they deserve as much attention as this record. Where I'm like, please, this stuff is so good. It just was not getting the attention that I thought it really deserved. Um, but I'm glad this one definitely is because this is, I think, the best of both worlds from those two records kind of combined into one here. But yeah, great work, Mr. Vincent.
come on our
A
podcast.
plus. Come on our podcast. I'd just be, I'd
That's
be intimidated. Someone that
you
good
would.
with words, I do not want to be around.
He should be on the main channel. We should review one of his records with him.
I do not want to do
That would be
that.
so cool. Big
Vince
Fish
is interesting.
Theory with Vince Staples.
Vince is interesting because he has this like kind of like he can shoot off the cuff so quickly and be so funny,
Yeah,
or serious or both at the same time. Um, in the way he like kind of portrays himself normally, and then you like hear his music, and I'm like, man,
yeah,
it's like two completely different people, but at the same time, it's like it rounds out his character like
that's
so
true.
well. Um, yeah, I I don't know who to really compare it to. I feel like there are comparisons to be made. Kendrick's kind of the same way. I think it's just that LA and people,
Mm.
where he's like kind of goofy, and then you play his records and you're like, oh my god,
You listen
what
to
are
Mother
you?
Eye Sober.
Yeah, I'm like, oh jeez. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, fantastic. Definitely one to check out this year. I think this will reach most people's palates. Honestly, um, it's great.
Nice.
Uh, okay. Um, and our microphones Mount Erie deep
Oh,
dive. I didn't
yes.
do any microphones records since last year or last week. Um,
Okay.
I did. It was How We Stayed in the Water last week. I talked about that there. Um, and I was gonna go in order, and then I'm realizing that a lot of these, like, I can't tell what's official and what I should listen to or not. Um, because like the first thing Mount Erie ever put out was just two new songs of Mount Erie in 2004, and I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to that. Give me a record.
Right.
Um, so I think No Flashlight is the official first record from Mount Erie. So that's the one I listened to, and I also listened to a live album from 2018.
Okay.
So we'll talk about both of those. We'll start with No Flashlight though. So this is the first. I'm saying it's the first. I could be wrong, but the first Mount Erie full length record. It is 37 minutes. It's got 15 tracks. A lot of them are very short. Um, I listened to this thing twice today. The first time I was confused a little bit. I was like it was I was not getting it. Um, I don't think I've ever had a easy experience with any of these records the first couple of times actually. I think the Globe Part 2 is probably the most accessible, and that thing is the furthest from accessible in hindsight.
Yeah.
Um, so these take a while to grow on you, which will make an interesting deep dive because I kind of want to just like start going, but at the same time, it's like I have to take my time a little bit with some of these. So first listen, I was a little bit confused. The sound is kind of similar to the Glow Part Two. It sounds a little bit even more disjointed than that record did. A little bit more folk. There's definitely still some noise rock thrown in there. Nothing the level of Samurai Sword, but still around there. Um, but we also have a lot of backing vocals from Genevieve, which is his wife, which is really cool to see. Um, Not traditional backing vocals though. I think everything on this record, it's so weird, like talking about this music because you could show it to someone and you'd have one person that's like, "Oh my god, this is like incredible," and another person being like, "Why can't they play in a beat? Why is there not a melody here? What is the guitar doing? Why is everything off by like half a measure?" Um, and I think both are true, but at the same time, it's like I think the feelings that he portrays in the music just like cut through all of it. I think the musicality above any theory or like rules, I think, is my favorite part about just him as an artist. Um, and that's definitely true on here. This thing is kaleidoscopic and it is messy and it is rough, but is also very pretty. Um, he still takes over a lot of like the kind of uh, textures of the acoustic guitar that he does on the Glow Part 2, where he just creates entire soundscapes through like pretty much one strum on a guitar. There's not really a melody or a run or anything he's going on. It's kind of just a chord or two to create some texture. He's playing with the channels again. Um, there's a little bit more like actual like electric guitar in here, which is really nice. There's one song that sounds like a pure like the guitar tone of like an '80s hair metal track, which is really weird. Um, but I think the themes of the record are what you'd expect. It is very nature focused. It is. I think he kind of like portrays everything through this nature lens, and his whole a lot of the records I've heard so far kind of delve in this like where do we live in nature, why are we here, what are we doing, this kind of existentialism framed within the context of like Washington forests, which I think is really really cool. And I think it really explores it a lot on this record through a little bit more of like an abstract lens. But yeah, I think his vocals are great. There's a lot of like different things he's doing vocally that I haven't heard before, which is cool. Um, he sounds like a little kid, and then the next minute he sounds like exactly like he does on like a 2018 record, which is really weird. Um, but I find his vocals incredible. He's got like such a soft, smoothing, like soothing voice. He's got that kind of Nick Drake effect for me that I just really love.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a really great record. I feel like I can't pick out any songs because it is just more of a turn it on and don't look at the track listing and just kind of see where it takes you. Um, I think each track has cool moments. I don't think there's any track on here that I would take over uh, any of the other records I've listened to up until this point. But I think the thing as a whole is still pretty fascinating. So that's the first one. I think next on Mount Erie would be No Wisdom, which is like 25 minutes.
Mm.
Uh, but that one is also very highly rated, so I will be checking that one out for next week. And if it's something we might be interested in for the channel, I'll throw it on the little EP wheel.
Okay.
This is 25 minutes. Um, but yeah, the other one I listened to, this is completely out of order and mostly just because I found out it existed. I'm like, ooh, I gotta listen to that. Uh, this is After, which is a live record from 2018 that has songs from Crow Looked at Me and Now Only kind of combined in one little package. I think this was the Crow Looked at Me tour, and he was premiering new songs that would become Now Only because some of the lyrics and stuff were a little bit different.
He toured
Um,
with that album.
he did, yes,
Who
and
would
he
go to
talks
that?
about that. He talks about that on the next album.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah, um, I don't know how he did that. That's I mean, you gotta make money, but like, oh my god,
I
um,
guess.
yeah, it's so weird because Carrie Lowell is another one of my favorite albums of all time, and that also has a live album that's really
That's
good.
true.
So I
That's
was getting
true.
a little bit of like, whoa, this is happening to me twice, and it's two slightly different things. Um, but I think it is a phenomenal live album. I think when it comes to being a live album, the songs are very much the songs. There's not a lot of different arrangements or musical things or extended passages or anything. It's pretty much cut and dry. I think there's some points on like Storia Moria that he has a couple of different lines or structures, but it is pretty much exactly the same as the record. But it sounds really good. The recording of it was really good. That's always my issue with live albums is they're not often recorded that well. But I
Yeah.
think the added reverb and stuff of the cathedral he's playing in with the guitar strums are a lot more reverbed out, and the vocals carry a lot more like weight in the mix. It works really well. I think some of these songs do sound better than the studio version. Um, and it's interesting hearing Now Only like as it's being worked on. It was pretty much done. I think the songs sound pretty close to the like the actual studio version, but you can see his writing style work in real time because he had no filter like during the live recordings of this because like most of the lyrics were the same, but he would go on and on and on before like there's like definitely parts where I'm like, okay, he edited that out, he edited that out. That's not relevant because he has this kind of like just spill words out of your mouth. Don't have it like go on beat or anything. Just like do spoken word almost just at a random pace, um, which works really well on the record. I think before the editing though, it was like, whoa, you are just talking. I think distortion on the live version is like 11 and a half minutes and the studio version is 11 minutes. Um, and a lot of that song is just storytelling. And he's just like, he wrote a whole novel for that track on here. But it's still really incredible. I think going to a concert like this would be like insane. I
I
think
don't think
about
I
that
could
too
do
often
it.
for like the Carrie and Lowell tour. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
I could do
um,
that. I don't think I could do Crow Looked at Me.
yeah, but I do want to see Phil live. Apparently, there's a new album like in the works, so that should be coming in a couple of years, I'd imagine. Um, I definitely like to see him live because I don't know. He's just like fascinating me like so much as I dig deeper. And just this process and everything is so like incredibly different than I've seen before. It's been a while since I've had an artist that like really puzzled me in a while where I'm like I need to like listen to everything you've done and try to figure out how and why.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been pretty great so far. I mean, I've liked every single record quite a bit. Um, I think a lot of these are kind of they're a little bit disjointed, and I like the kind of it feels like you're kind of digging in a dollar store record bin, but at the same time it's like I know it's all his records, but he kind of just pours everything out. There's a lot of experiments and a lot of things that didn't go as well as some of his like more put together albums, and I think that stuff's really fun to listen to. I think it's cool having artists like Kendrick that only put out like top quality stuff. Like you're only getting the best of me, and I'm never showing you another side of that.
Mm.
But then you have something like this where it's like I'm spilling out everything, and you can kind of take bits and pieces that you enjoy, and you can see my experiments in real time, and you can see how I got from point A to like this album point B, um, which is really fascinating. So yeah, It is going very well. I think next week I'll do Lost Wisdom because that'll be the next big one. And I think the microphones I might just have to hold on because we have Mount Erie on our wheel. So whenever we get a semi X, that's coming. Um,
Okay.
I kind of want to wait. I want microphones in 2020 to be my very last stop, um, because I think that track is like recounting his entire career. Um, so I don't want to do that too early. I want to hit the full effect of this 44-minute and 44-second track. Um, but yeah, the microphones doesn't have as much output, like nearly. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
mostly Mount Erie. But yeah, I'm excited to keep going. I am so in. I am just amazed every day because a lot of these songs, again, like it's a little weird when I listen to this much music because the kind of magic of it wears off every once in a while, and I kind of get in the slumps where I just listen to the same things over and over again. But then something like this hits me, and it's like, okay, now I'm like in a completely new space again, and I have to like get my bearings and figure out like why I enjoy this so much and all of that. So uh, it's always fun doing these. I'm glad I'm back into one. I think the last thing I did before this was like a metal kind of introductory deep dive, and that ended kind of quickly once new music came out last year that I actually started enjoying.
Yeah.
Because last year started very slow. I don't think there was any great albums until like April or May.
Yeah, it took a minute.
Yeah, but that's where I'm at. I think that's up to date with everything I got.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice. I don't think I've listened to anything since last time. No albums. I think I was listening to some songs by Bill Withers. I might
Mm-hmm.
check out
Mm-hmm.
more of his stuff. Um,
The goat.
the goat. I didn't know much about him. Like I know like Lean on Me and Ain't No
Mm-hmm.
Sunshine, but like I was listening to some of his like deeper cuts. And I'm like, man, this is like really really good. So I might check out one of his albums soon. But a little peek behind the veil. We recorded
Mm-hmm.
our podcast last time a little late. So it hasn't been a full week since we recorded last. So haven't had blah, blah, blah. Haven't had as much time to watch and listen to stuff. So maybe I'll talk about it next week. But other than that, I'm still rocking Tracy Chapman.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff. Um, But yeah, I do have, I guess, breaking news. I should have put this at the beginning. I completely forgot. And then I saw something. David Lynch is back, baby.
Let's go.
Let's go. I don't know. Did you see this?
I did not.
Okay. So, for those who don't know, David Lynch has been MIA since December of 2022. He used to do a daily weather report on his YouTube channel, and whatever today's number is, hasn't done that since then. His Twitter has been completely inactive since then. Yesterday, he posted on his Twitter saying that he has something new for us to for us to see and hear, and it is coming out on the 5th. So next
Okay.
week.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I was very cryptic, very David Lynch. He was in the spot where he recorded his weather reviews, same exact spot, but on Twitter. And it's nighttime. You can see the reflection of his phone in his sunglasses because he's always wearing those sunglasses. Um, and yeah, so we won't be able to talk about it next time because it'll be podcast timing. We won't have recorded when that'll come out, but depending on what it is, we might have that to talk about on the next week's podcast. So we'll see. We'll see. There have been rumors that he's been up to something. Um, I don't think it's a new Twin Peaks season. There's been some talk about that. I don't think David Lynch is involved.
I think it's done.
Yeah.
He made it extremely clear in the season 3 finale that he's done.
Yeah. I think he's
He
done.
literally killed it.
He did. um, so I don't think it's that. If it's a new movie, I would be very shocked. I think it's maybe a short. I think that's what makes sense. He has made shorts since I think his last one was Lost Highway. That was in the early 2000s. And then he was like, I'm done. I don't want to make movies anymore. Which he could have changed his mind, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. He was very vague, just something for us to see and hear, which involves that it's visual in some, some way. It's not an album because he's been doing those. But yeah. Which have you listened to any of David Lynch's stuff?
No, I probably should though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of it is collab albums with Angelo Badalamenti.
Hmm.
So, assumedly, it's probably pretty good, but it's
I mean, yeah,
also
I do enjoy the
experimental.
season 3 soundtrack quite a bit.
Yeah. I don't know if I would like it, but it might be up your alley.
Yeah, he gives me like he's gonna make industrial stuff,
Yeah.
which I'm down with.
I think that's the direction. And that's kind of the vibe I get from the album covers.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, just thought that I should announce that since we talk about David Lynch quite a bit. Um,
Real.
yeah, good old boy. One of the last like directors that is like making art. Well, not I don't know. No, not one of the last ones. There's still people doing it, but man, he has not really sold out in all of his years except for Dune. Ever since then, he's just been making weirdo stuff that no one likes. So, and that's what I like about it.
Me
So,
too.
yeah, we'll have that to talk about. Maybe, whatever it is. I don't see. I don't. This is how, like, if it is a movie and this is a lead up to a movie, I don't see David Lynch dropping a trailer. Like, how do you make a trailer to a David Lynch movie?
I just want him to do the weather report, but it's a movie trailer.
I do too. I would love that. And by the way, my new movie is coming out in October. That's the
Vertical
dream.
Twitter video.
Hey, he never does vertical. It's always landscape.
Mm. Yes, taste.
Yes, taste. Yeah. But that's it. I should have put it at the top. Put it in the news section, but I forgot. So hopefully some of those guys are still lingering around. So there's that. But that's it for this week's podcast. Next week, reviews for Furiosa and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Then I will be all caught up. I will have seen every single monkey movie except for all the King Kongs.
Let's talk
Maybe
about that
that's what I'll
more.
do. 2028, I'll watch all the King
Monkey
Kong
Summer.
movie. Or should I just keep going? Is that what you're saying?
Monkey Summer.
This summer I'm going to watch all. Man, how many King Kong movies are there? How many times can I watch the same movie over and over again? Uh, Let me pull that up. Uh, Movies are there? Let's see. There's 13. Really?
It's
13.
easy.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Well, I say that. That's more than Fast and Furious and Planet of the
Yeah.
Apes. So that is a lot. But I expected it to be like Godzilla, because Godzilla probably has 30 movies. Let me see. Because they really were cranking those out. Um, let's see. Ah, jeez. Yeah, 38. So I'm not gonna do that. And I a lot of those are stinkers. So I don't think I'll do that. But who knows? Maybe my next project will be King Kong, even though I hate movies that are big monsters destroying a city. So maybe it won't be that. But I'm also not one to really watch movies about people racing cars. So, and I did that. for literally no reason. No one asked me to do that, and I did it of my own volition. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what my next one will be. I tend to do this every year or so. Leave it in the comments. What long series should I look at? I'll pay attention. Okay, bye.